song that is not a new song. It's called Days of Elijah. But it's an awesome song. There, it talks about when Christ comes back. A lot of it as we're singing this. And we're excited about the second coming of our Lord, and we're looking forward to it.
Amen.
And it could be coming a lot faster than we thought. Who knows? But, all right, so let's have a word of prayer, and then we'll get started. Jesus, thank you for this morning. Lord, thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for your word that we can read. And thank you for voices that we can sing. We pray that as we come before you this morning, that we will hear from you. And Lord, as our voices are lifted, Lord, may it be a pleasing melody in your ears, Lord, this worship that we bring to you this morning. We pray you help us to put aside the other things that we've got going on in our minds, and help us to focus on you, God, and how good you are, how awesome you are. And Jesus, we love you, and we pray this in your precious name. Amen.
Amen.
darkness. That's our God. Amen?
Amen.
Yes.
Get chills in your arms when you start singing. You're just like, God, because He's so true. When we think about it in our own lives, and how many times God's come through, and God's provided, and God's taken care of us. And even when we didn't deserve it, you know, God still is looking out for us. You know? Kind of like Samson, we're going to learn about today.
Wanted to just say happy birthday this week to Susie D and Emily R. Happy birthday, you guys. Enjoy this week as you celebrate your birthdays. And I know we're all staying home, so celebrate with those that are around you. We want to ask the Lord today to dwell with us, to continue to be with us, help us to remember that we need to look at Him when it gets crazy. Help us to keep our eyes focused on Him in prayer as we walk through this journey. Actually, it's a really different journey than before, but ask the Lord to be present in your life. Continue to pray, everybody. Don't forget that we have Bible study with the women every Thursday night at 7. We're Zooming it, girls. So if you have Lori's number, give her a call or call here at the church so you can hook up with us to Zoom. It's pretty awesome to see everybody and get to talk with one another. Can't touch each other, but it's just a glorious time to share the word of the Lord with each other and to hear each other's lives catching up. So, ladies, if you care to join the Bible study, feel free to let us know.
Yeah, you don't. If you're in the ladies' Bible study, you don't have to wear a mask, which is cool. So you can actually see if people are smiling. I don't know how it is. At least in Hawaii, you have to wear a mask everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Even like I would try to go to the gas station, no mask, no service. Used to be no shirt, no shoes, no service. Now it's like, and no mask. You know, got to make new signs, update everything. And then I went to Sakata, and you still have to wear a mask. So everyone's abiding by the laws out here, which is good. But on Zoom, you can actually see people what they look like again. Because we're kind of forgetting what people's like faces down here look like. So.
And everyone's hair is getting longer.
All right. And grayer.
I'm getting more green in my.
Still bald head.
So, all right. Well, we're gonna keep on worshiping here. Sing, Your grace finds me, and again, this song just speaks to the point that wherever we are in life, it's the good times, the baby's born, the grandbaby's born, something like that. We see the grace of God. In the sunrise, we see the grace of God. In the shadows of this life, we see a great grace. And so we encourage you guys to worship the Lord with us this morning. Sunrise, there in the shadows of this life. to grace, how great a debtor. Jesus saves, are the saints who shout together. Jesus saves, rising up so fast and strong, lifting up salvation's song. The redeemed will sing forever. Jesus saves, rising up so fast and strong, lifting up salvation's song. The redeemed will sing forever. Jesus saves. Amen.
Dear Heavenly Father, God, I just thank you, God, for saving us. I thank you, Lord, for chasing us down. I pray that as we come before you this morning and open up your word, we will just truly listen, God. We will set aside all of the distractions and just come before you with a heart willing and open to learn, God, because you have so much to give to us, God. In this time of fear and uncertainty, we can always find hope in you, God. I just thank you, Lord, for everything that you've done for us. I thank you, Lord, that the numbers of the virus increasing are going down for the most part, at least here in Hawaii. We've been pretty steady. I pray that you will just wipe this virus off the earth, God, and that we can return back to normal, return to our having regular church services so that we can see each other again, God. I pray for anyone that is feeling down or alone while they're stuck at home, God. We just lift them up to you. Pray that people reach out to them this week and just show them your love, God. I just thank you, Lord, again for everything, for this beautiful day, and for all that you've done and continue to do in each and every one of our lives. In your name we pray. Amen.
All right, if you got your Bible, you can open it up to the book of Judges, chapter 7. Judges, chapter 7, the life of Samuel. Is it working? So good morning, everybody. Good morning. I don't know if as soon as I know we're ready. It's funny doing this live because you gotta wait on things and stuff. And so, but good morning, guys. We're in Judges chapter 7, and I'll just give you a little reminder of where we're at. We're in the story of Samson, and last week we kind of learned. I titled last week "Me, Myself, and I" because that's kind of how Samson is living his life. It's all about himself that we see. Well, starting off at the chapter 13, we found out about his parents. They were visited by the angel of the Lord. Through a couple of different visits, they realized that this kid is going to be special. He's going to start to deliver the children of Israel from the Philistines, which are people that had kind of invaded across and onto the Mediterranean coast. And I think it said this. I read this somewhere. Ramses III called them the Sea People because they came from across the Mediterranean. And initially, they invaded Egypt, and then they came in and started haggling and hassling the children of Israel. But pretty much under God's direction, because the children of Israel were crazy, and they kept messing up over and over and over. So once they started to steer clear from following God, God would allow them to be persecuted by a group of people. And this time, it's the Philistines. So here we are, Samson. I'm just putting this, I'm going to make sure we're ready to go here. Is it working, Eli? Is it still on? Okay, we're just making sure. Isn't it fun watching? You never know what's going to happen. It's live. You don't know. I might fall on my face. Who knows what's going to happen? But, okay, so it's good to go. So, Samson, what I'm going to talk about here is a lot of things. Man, you could have named this so many different things. As we talk about the life of Samson. But I'm just saying, man, he's got some misguided desires. You'll find that he is a man controlled by his passions and things like that. And we're going to look at all these different avenues of things that he's controlled by. How many guys, the screen's not broken, but you can't see that because it's all blurry, right? And this is my thing. Samson had some messed up vision. You know, spiritual vision and things like that, and to see what was most important and what wasn't important in life. He had a hard time deciphering, you know, what was most important, and that's serving God. You know, a man named Andrew Murray, you know, he's a Christian back in the 1800s there in South Africa. He was like, wrote a lot of books and stuff. He says, one great power of sin is that it blinds men so that they do not recognize its true character. Man, sin has this way of blinding us. Amen?
Amen.
I mean, all four of you in here. But it has this way of blinding us. When we don't see it, we don't see maybe the damage, we don't see the character defects in ourselves, we don't see how crazy we're acting. Sin messes with our heads. It's a proven fact. You know, you're just going to go nuts as soon as you start steering from God. So here's a couple things real fast. I'm going to read through these 10 things, and you're going to see these in the life of Samson today. So these aren't just random. These are things I just picked out through the story. First one is, we're going to realize that, you know, when you don't see value in God, and I could have phrased that different ways, but I was trying to fit it up there on big typing, you know. But when you don't value maybe the call of God on your life, when you don't place a high value on God in the sense that He is priority in your life. He's like, when you're looking at something, and what's the most important thing you're looking at in your life? Is it God? And when it's not, everything else starts to kind of like domino effect and starts to mess up in your life. And we'll see this in Samson. Just to make clear, Samson's called by God. You know, and I talked about this last week, but just a little reminder that he was called by God. He took in a vow, a Nazirite vow. He wasn't going to cut his hair. He wasn't going to shave. He wasn't going to eat anything unclean. He wasn't going to touch a dead carcass. He wasn't going to drink any wine and things like this. He was going to be set aside for the work of God. And we'll find that there's no question of whether or not he's called by God. You know, the question not is how high of a value did he set on that? And it was very low in the way that we see him live his life. So number one, you don't see the value in serving God. If you don't place a high value on God, and this is everyone, you know, do this little test in your mind. You know, well, where are we at? Because a lot of times we'll easily say, yeah, I value God more than anything else in this world. But where is your heart lying? Where are you really doing? Where are you really spending your time and your money and your efforts and things like that? A lot of times it's not anything to do with God. You know? So when you're in that state, you'll find these things in your life also, just like we're going to see in Samson. You're going to see you don't see value in serving God. Hey, you know, what's the big deal? We'll see that in Samson's life. You don't see value in honoring your parents. You don't see a value in godly relationships. You don't see a value in telling the truth. You don't see a value in humility. You know, these things will be a part of your life. You're not going to see a value in financial integrity in your life. You don't see a value in animal life. You don't see a value in human life. You don't see value in forgiveness. The only thing you see value in is serving yourself. And a lot of times, that's what we'll see, and it's going to be self-evident as we go through this right now. So we're in Judges chapter 14, starting in verse 7. A little recap, just kind of going through. I went back a couple verses from last week. It says, then he went down, and he talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. If you remember, Samson was mesmerized by this Philistine woman. I guess he thought she was really beautiful, and he's like, wow, you know, I got to have this girl. So he goes to his parents. He's like, Mom, Dad, you know, Dad, go get her for me, you know. If you remember, his dad's name was Manoah, so I think he was Hawaiian, because it sounded like a Hawaiian name there. So the parents give in, they go down, and they're working down here in this town called Timnah there to try to orchestrate him to marry this woman. So they went down, they talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. And after some time, when he returned to her, he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. Last week I talked about how their initial trip down there to visit the woman, and with the dad and the folks, he had by hand, barehanded, taken out a lion. Like it's a small lion came up, and a younger lion came and attacked him, and he was able to rent it with his bare hands. And so on his way back, this time, to go down there and I guess actually, you know, get married, you know, there's a little time delay here. He goes down there and he sees he thinks about it. He goes, I want to go see what's up with this animal carcass, right? He's supposed to stay clear from carcasses. He's certainly not supposed to touch them and stuff. He turned aside, he sees the carcass of the lion, and behold, a swarm of bees and honey were in the carcass of the lion. You remember this from last week. And he took some of it in his hands and he went along eating. So he dug it out of the carcass and he started eating the honey. There's a honey hive, bee hive there in the carcass Again, no real thought about it, no real thought about how this could be offensive towards God, obviously, because he was called not to do this. When he came to his father and his mother, he gave them some. He gave some to them, and they also ate. But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey out of the carcasses of the lion. So it's pretty crazy. Here at the very beginning, you see some stuff about Samson. I put number one, he's coveting what God has forbidden. First of all, he wasn't supposed to be with the Philistine woman. It has nothing to do with race. It has something to do with spiritual integrity. God said, listen, you marry people with their own faith. If you marry somebody and you're unequally yoked with them, they're going to drive you down. They're going to turn your heart away from God with all their false gods and stuff like that. Samson threw it in there. I don't care. When it came to the honey, it's in a carcass, man. He can't contain himself in the passion that he has inside just to get some honey. I mean, I like honey. I put it in my tea every morning. I got some in my green tea right here. I like honey. But are you willing to really, you see the call God has on your life for purity in such a small way that you're willing to dig into a dirty, nasty, disgusting carcass just for the desire that you have? You kind of see this in Samson. Every desire that you can think about, it seems like he can't control himself. He's called by God, he's in all these things, but when he has a fleshly desire come upon him, and we have desires, we have how many senses we got? 7 senses? No senses? Now I don't know how many senses we got. but we all got our senses and stuff, and God has orchestrated that that a man and a woman, you look at a woman, she's beautiful, and it's fine. God made you in the context of a marriage, in a godly context. There's great things happen, right? In food, man, God made awesome food, like honey and whatnot and stuff like that, like enchiladas or something. You know what I mean? It's like you're there and you're drawn to it. It's a desire that God's given you. But if you have no control over that, you're a lot like Samson. You're not alone. That's all of us. Apart from the power of God in our life, we can't even control ourselves when it comes to anything. And so he's certainly not controlling himself. So he's got, covets what has been forbidden. Again, he values things really low when it comes to serving God and obeying him, right? And I don't know who said this, but it's not a Bible verse, but it says that eyes are useless when the mind is blind. And it's a pretty true statement. Our eyes, we can see everything, but spiritually speaking, we can see stuff in this, but they're useless if our mind is blind. And that's what we see in Samson's life. Like, what? You ever see someone you just want to say, slap them upside the head and say, what are you thinking, man? Why would you even do that? It's we got to look in the mirror first. We can see ourselves have done, why did I do that? We could look around, we probably have known somebody and say, why would you act like that? Why would you do that? Why would you act in that fashion? It's just kind of crazy because we get blinded by sin. So another point we see is, we see Samson lying right off the bat. He starts lying. He doesn't value the truth. He kills the lion. He doesn't even tell his parents about that. You think it might be something you mentioned. Hey, Dad, guess what, man? First thing I ever did, God hooked me up. He gave me strength, and I just took down a lion, Dad. I think I would run and go tell my parents, but I don't know why he didn't. So anyway, he could have rationalized, well, not telling them is not really telling a lie. So, but then when he gets to the point, he goes, and then later on, when the carcass is there and the lion's been dead, he gets the honey. He goes and gives it to his parents. He doesn't tell them where it's from. That's lying. That's when you try to get clever with yourself and thinking that you're not lying by, well, it's not really lying. Like, listen, your parents will want to know if you just took the honey out of a dead animal, right? I mean, it's something that's for sure, but he doesn't see it. He doesn't see it. He's blinded. Verse 10, so his father went down, getting back to the story here, went down to the woman, and Samson gave a feast there for young men used to do so. So they're getting ready to have a big wedding ceremony. It's going to be like a week long. They're going to be hanging out and stuff. Verse 11, and it happened when they saw him that they brought 30 companions to be with him. So the Philistines, I guess when they saw him, they said, man, let's get some friends for him. Who's going to hang out by themselves during their wedding, celebration here? So they get 30 Philistine friends, or 30 guys. I don't know if they're really friends. We'll find out tonight they're friends. But they get them to go down there and hang out with them. And then verse 12, then Samson said to them, let me pose a riddle to you. So if you can correctly solve and explain it to me within the 7 days of the feast, then I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. But if you cannot explain it to me, then you shall give me 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. So he's making a deal. He's kind of gambling. And he's making a deal, and he says, listen, guys, if I'm going to throw out a riddle to you, if you can figure this out, then I'll, by the time, allotted time, I'm gonna give you 30 sets of clothing for you, right? But if not, then each of you guys got to give me a set. So it's really harder on him, It's kind of like a 30 to 1 odd. So here we are. Here's a riddle, and I'm gonna see if anybody can figure this out. Because you already know the riddle I'm gonna tell you in a minute that Samson said. I know this, Mr. Target right here. My son works at Target, knows it. But he goes, I eat. I'm just giving you a different one so you can kind of get an idea of what these guys are thinking, I eat, I live. I breathe, I live, I drink, I die. What am I? I'll say it one more time. I know you can see it, but it says, I eat, I live, I breathe, I live, I drink, I die. What am I? And that's a riddle. And you're kind of like, man, I don't know. And that's what these guys are perplexed by, right, throughout the week. And they're like, what is going on? And there is a little hint here, and it's the water spigot. No water.
It's contaminated. The water.
Should I tell you? I'll wait until the end. For those of you that hang out with me for the end of this thing, I'll tell you what the riddle is. I'll let it just bug you for a little bit here. So he comes out with his riddle, but here's the thing. Samson thinks he's clever. Proverbs 16, 18, 19 said, pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. He's getting up there and he's thinking, man, I'm clever. I got this down. I'm going to give you this riddle and I'm going to make some money in the process, right? He decides to gamble with pretty high stakes. Now I am not a financial advisor, so take absolutely no advice from me unless it's biblical advice. But, the stock market is low, and so some people are thinking about buying maybe into the stocks or something like that. Maybe it's not low. Maybe it's going to go lower. I don't know. But anyway, you can go and you can get this highly leveraged kind of stocks. They call them an ETF, like 2 times, 3 times negative or positive of what the stocks can do. So what it is, if you put $1 in, you can lose $3. Doesn't make sense, right? If you put $1 in, you could also gain $3. It's such a leveraged thing. Well, that's insane. Don't ever do it, okay? Don't ever do it. It's nuts, right? But what he's got here is like a 30 to 1 kind of leveraged kind of deal. He's just thinking about money. The more you think about the story, you're not thinking about the garments and stuff. He's thinking about, make me some cash flow, and I bet you I'm going to do this. I don't think that he could pay for it, number one. I think he was leveraging off some thought that they're never going to find out this riddle. I'm going to make some money. He's like, because why? The man is consumed by his passion. He's consumed by his own desires for anything and everything in this world. You see that he just can't control himself. And when it comes to gambling, he's like, man, just lay it all down. You know what I mean? He's like, who would do that? Why would you do that? He's like, why not, man? And he just throw it all down there. And he's just consumed with every single thing. And we see this in our own lives, right? You ever notice when you're allowing one sin into your life, a lot of other sins kind of find their way in? It's like you've allowed this crack in and this wedge, and Satan is just trying to crack it open wider and bring in other ways. We got to be careful. So I probably thought he wouldn't lose. Hey, man, you're not going to lose on this, man. I have a friend, if you ever watches this, I won't use his name, but he was like, I remember him telling me, and he had a brother-in-law that had the goods on the stock, and nobody knew about it, and it was going to go so high, and lost everything. It was terrible, and his wife's money too. It was terrible. So going on, and so what do they say? The 30 fellas there, the Philistines, they're like, they said to him, pose your riddle that we may hear it. They're like, okay, we're on this, man. I just got to give you one. Each of us will give you one, but you're going to give us, okay, let's do this. I think we can solve your riddle. And I don't know, kind of like a wedding game maybe, sort of. So verse 14. So he said to them, out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came forth something sweet. And we know the story. He's talking about the lion and the carcass, and inside is the honey, and he's made this thing about it. How in the world would he ever find this out? It's impossible, right? It's like that's why I think he made the odds so high in his favor for Samson. Because how can I lose on this? They're never going to know this, right? So now for 3 days, they could not explain the riddle. These guys, they didn't know what in the world Samson was talking about. So verse 15, but it came to pass on the 7th day that they said to Samson's wife, the day is getting, or in the 7 days, whatever, he goes in, he goes talks to the wife, and he's like, well, this is what they say. Entice your husband, that he may explain the riddle to us, or else we will burn you and your father's house with fire. So now we find out what kind of guys these are. They're not really friendly guys. It's kind of like maybe he just went down to just a bad area somewhere, they're dealing, somewhere MS-13's hanging out. I don't know. But these guys aren't like really nice guys. They come to the wife and they say, listen, if you don't tell us what the riddle is, then we're going to kill you. It's like putting a gun to her head, right? We're going to kill you and we're going to kill your dad. So you better tell us and you better find out from your husband here. And he goes, why? He goes, have you guys invited us in order to take what is ours? Is that not so? He's like, what is this, man? This is craziness. He's giving us some thing. There's no possible way we could figure out this riddle. You take us here just to take our stuff? That's messed up. We're going to kill you if you don't let us know. So now we know at least the context of why the wife is going to do the things that she does here in just a minute. So here it is. The threats against his wife and his father, I'll just say, man, they're directly related to Samson's actions. It wasn't justified that they would give a death threat and threaten her life, and that obviously wasn't justified. That was evil. But Samson wasn't helping the matter. You know what I mean? By getting in there and trying to stir up all this stuff. So Samson there and his crazy desires and stuff are getting him in trouble, getting his wife in trouble, getting his father-in-law in trouble, just causing trouble, and that's sin. We think it's only going to affect me. It's not going to have this other. Nothing else is going to happen, but it's always bringing all these other people into the mix. Amen?
Amen.
Yeah, we're never alone in our sin. We might think we are, but we're not. So verse 16, so then Samson's wife, she wept on him, and she said, you only hate me. You do not love me. Man, this is the first week of marriage. And she's like, hold on, you only hate me. You don't love me. You have posed a riddle to the sons of my people, but you have not explained it to me. So if you love me, you're going to let me know, and we shouldn't hold secrets and blah, 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 and crying and all this stuff, right? And he said to her, look, I've not explained it to my father or my mother. So shall I explain it to you? And Samson's like, look, I haven't told nobody. It's I'm highly leveraged on this deal. You know what I mean? I could get into lose a lot of money here. And he's like, so she doesn't let it go. Verse 17, now she had wept on him the 7 days while their feast lasted. Man, Samson's first week of marriage is miserable, right? Why? You can't control your passions. You can't control yourself. If you're trying on your own strength, you're in trouble. The only hope is God. And the Spirit of God working in you and just saying, Lord, I need help. God, help me. I can't control nothing. When I walk up, this is me. I like to eat when you're not supposed to eat. Anybody like to eat after 7, 8 o'clock? That is me. I'll do good. I can do all morning, not hardly eat anything, eat lunch. I eat dinner, and then something about dinner just primes me up. And I'm ready to eat until 11, 12 o'clock at night. So it's just calm, but just trying to have that control of whatever desire and passion it is. And we have many, right? We have many. We're seeing these kind of laid out in Samson right now. So his first week, of marriage is miserable. She's crying, she's nagging, she's complaining that he doesn't love her. I mean, man, this is this great. Wow, it's going to be really bad. So then going on, and it happened on the 7th day that he told her, because she pressed him so much. And finally, Samson's like, look, I guess you're right, man. I love you. I don't want you to think I hate you. I want you to think I don't love you. I'll tell you. And it's about the lion. I killed a lion on the way. With my bare hands, God gave me this supernatural strength. It was like I was Superman. I jumped out, the lion snuck up on me. I grabbed him, wham, ripped him apart. It was insane. Then later on, when I came back on my way down here to marry you, I went over there just curious, like a guy, wanted to see the dead carcass and see what it looked like, and maybe measure and see, because I've been saying the fish was this big, but I've been saying it's this, but I want to see this fish, how big the fish story is, I want to see how big this bad boy is, right? And so I went back there, and there's a beehive in there, and I was like, man, this is good honey, this. I grabbed it and all this stuff, and that's where I got the riddle from. And so he tells her, and then she does exactly what you would do exactly what you think you might do. Because again, it's not like she's under pressure. And she's under more pressure than Samson knows. She's got a gun to her head and the head of her father. And she's worried about their life. And she knows these guys aren't just messing around. So she goes and immediately tells the Philistines what the explanation for that riddle is. And then she explained the riddle to the sons of her people. So the men of the city said to him, on the seventh day, before the sun went down, right at the last moment, it's like fourth inning, 30 seconds left. Here in our overtime, or just before overtime, I guess. It says, this is what they said: what's sweeter than honey, and what's stronger than a lion? Bad boy, we got you. We know it. We got the money. Hook us up. You owe us 30 layers of clothes. And back in the day, that would be expensive. That would be very expensive. It wouldn't be something small. So here's my little picture of Samson. He's got to go get the money back, right? Now, how does Samson deal with anger? If you know this much about him, and like I said, sin kind of spreads like a plague in your life, right? It doesn't just usually affect one avenue. You start to lose control of all your passions. You start to just be led by your passions and things. And that's what happens here. Man, listen what happens. Well, first listen to what his response was. Yeah, he goes, and he said to them, if you had not plowed with my heifer, which is a female, a cow, he calls his wife a cow, you would not have solved my riddle. And Samson's privy to the fact that it's because they had, hey, you go this way, and just bugged her. I guess I've never plowed with a cow, right? But I'm assuming, I've seen a picture like this, and I'm assuming you're kind of going like, oh, you go down line, and just nagging them, right? And then I guess they just nagged her, and to the point where she really, really got there. And if you hadn't plowed with my heifer, if you hadn't messed with my heifer, my wife, you wouldn't have solved the riddle. So then the Spirit of the Lord came upon him mightily. And with just a little explanation again, God is using Samson. Even in the midst, like Sandra pointed this out this morning, even in the midst of all his craziness, right, and all his sins, God is already appointed to use him in a certain fashion, and that is to start to press against the Philistines. He's not going to completely free them from the Philistines, but he's going to start that process. Because we find, you remember David, slew Goliath. What was Goliath? He was a Philistine, right? So the Philistines are still around. Bob Marley knew too. David slew Goliath with a sling and a stone. Samson slew the Philistines with a donkey jawbone. Bob Marley knew it, but I hope he knew the Lord before he died. I heard that. So verse 19 again, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him mightily, and he went down to Ascalon and killed 30 of their men and took their apparel and gave the changes of clothes to those who had explained the riddle. So he went down there and crazy. He's so mad that he lost the money. He's like a gangster in Las Vegas back in the 70s or something. You know what I mean? It's like, what's going on? I mean, he goes down there. God was using this again in one fashion to press against the Philistines who have been oppressing the children of Israel. The children of Israel cried out for help. And, but then again, it should have been this way out of vengeance, in this way that Samson is acting. So he killed 30 of them, and he takes their clothes, and he goes back and he gives it to those who had explained the riddle. We don't know. It seems like these guys didn't know right off the bat what had happened, because the rest of the story doesn't indicate that they knew right off the bat. I'm sure eventually they figured this out, where they got the clothes, where Samson got the clothes. So going on, so his anger was aroused, and he went back up to his father's house. So Samson was so mad after that, and he gave him the clothes, like, I'm out of here, and he left his wife behind, right? And she's hanging out down there, just got married. And Samson's wife was given to his companion who had been his best man. Wow. So at this point, Samson didn't know it yet. So how's Samson going to respond when he gets back to town? Eventually, when he is going to come back to town, the next verse we're going to look at. And how's he going to respond? The dad, he goes on here, and I'll just keep reading. Okay, so Samson loses the bet, big time. He doesn't want to go pay for it. Uh-oh. My PowerPoint just died. Oh, there we go. So Samson loses the bet. Samson kills 30 Philistines. He was empowered by God to do it, though. Kind of those things I just pointed out. And Samson's wife is given to another man because of his anger. And again, this can be kind of attributed. You got to give some responsibility to Samson here of what happens with his wife. He bolts so mad, he doesn't communicate anything. He kills 30 people. He comes back up there and gives to these guys. And the dad and stuff doesn't know exactly what's going on. Uh-oh. I don't even know what verse I was on. So he doesn't know exactly what's going on. And how is he going to respond? How is he going to act what's he going to do? And I'm going to find my place here in Judges. We're in chapter
Chapter 20.
20. And Samson's wife has been given to the companion whom he had used as his friend or his best man. So now I'm going to be reading from King James here. So then verse 15, it comes to pass within a while, I don't know how long, but eventually, Samson comes along. It says, within a while after the time of harvest, that Samson visited his wife with a kid or a baby goat, like a present. Probably maybe his wife, oh, he's so cute. You know what I mean? I don't know, whatever, And so they're going to have a barbecue, whatever they're going to do with this baby goat. So Samson came down there. He let some time pass. He didn't tell anybody really what was going on. And he said, I will go now to my wife into the chamber. So he's like, yeah, we go see my wife and we're going to consummate our marriage. Might as well, just make things right. I guess he cooled off after a while, right? And I would go into my wife into the chamber, but her father would not suffer him to go in. So the father was like, yeah, you ain't going in there, man. This is like a no trespass zone now. It's like authorized people only. And the idea there was because the next verse says, and her father said, I verily thought that thou hadst utterly hated her. Therefore I gave her to thy companion. Is not her younger sister fairer than she? Take her, I pray thee. So the father goes there, and this is just crazy when you really think about it. It's totally like mind-boggling. But the father gave away his wife to his best man. He gets back, and Samson's like, I'm going to go in her. And he's like, no, you can't. She's already married to someone else. I gave her. I thought you hated her. You didn't say anything. I just thought, man, it was over, and you're going back to your town and everything until everything's over. And so then he says, listen, why don't you go ahead and take her younger daughter? Isn't she better? Isn't she better than the other one? I mean, it's so sad how they talk about women. Just take her, you can have her. And I don't know, the other daughter's like, yo, do I have any say in this? But so in the Philistine way there. And then verse 3 of this is Judges chapter 15. Samson said concerning them, now shall I be more blameless than the Philistines, though I do them a displeasure or I do them an evil. Samson's like, man, when I bring the thunder down now, I won't be that blameless because you guys have wronged me. You guys were so messed up to me. It's terrible, right? So Samson, this is what he does. And Samson said concerning them, I'll be more blameless than the Philistines. Verse 4. And Samson went and caught 300 foxes and took firebrands and turned tail to tail and put a firebrand in the midst between the tails. And when he had set the brands on fire, he let them go into the standing corn of the Philistines and burnt up both the shocks and also the standing corn with the vineyards and the olives. This is one thing I had never heard of this before. I don't know anybody who's ever attempted anything like this. I don't know anywhere else in any book, in any nursery rhyme, anything I've ever heard like this. Samson got 300 foxes. He got their tails and somehow tied them together. And in the middle of their tails, I'm assuming he used a rope. I don't think he used their tails because I thought about it. I don't think that would work. So he probably got some kind of cordage or something, right? And he tied around one tail, tied around the other tail, and got a torch and tied it there. So the foxes would be freaking out. And they'd be going like one way, they'd be trying to go the other way, and they would just start running. And then they would try to bolt and go out. Then when he let them go with the torch in the middle of the tails, ran right out into the cornfields, the vineyards, and all over. And what?
How do you find 300 foxes?
How do you find 300 foxes? That's what I'm saying. It doesn't say that he did this instantaneously. Good question. How would you find 300 foxes? Well, it doesn't say it happened overnight. So he could have been smart that way and just like made some trap things. You can find 300 pigs around here. I bet you if you put $10,000 out and say you first one to get 300 pigs, we got people with 300 pigs. I'm sure because we got so many out here. So it must have been that way with the foxes and stuff in that area at that time.
Yeah.
So he lets them all go. Their fiery tails bolting everywhere, burns down everything, all their fields and stuff like this. I believe this is God's judgment on these guys because this is what they were doing basically to the children of Israel. We find out even the life of Gideon there. A different group of people at that point, but they would go in there and they would take their fields, they'd burn down their fields and all this stuff. So God is bringing wrath, but this isn't the way he's trying to bring it to the Philistines. So, verse 6, we're almost done here. It says, then the Philistines said, who's done this? The Philistines are like, man, who would do this? And then I guess maybe they found the foxes tied together. I'm like, what kind of screwball crazy kid did this? What kind of crazy teenager was thinking about this? You know, you heard of like throwing a cherry bomb in a toilet, or you heard about doing crazy dumb stuff. But can you imagine? Do not ever put a cherry bomb anywhere, or a mailbox or whatever. But you know, this crazy idea, and they're like, who did this? They didn't know at that point that it was Samson. They didn't know that it was him right off the bat. So I'll keep going. When you set them on the here we are. Then the Philistines said, who has done this? And they answered Samson. Someone said, Samson did this, man. This has got his handwriting all over it. It's got his signature on it. Who else would do something like this? Who else could get 300 foxes, like Eli said? You know? And they answered Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he has taken his wife and given her to his companion. So they explained, hey, Samson's mad. That's why it is, because his wife was given to his best man, and now he's mad at everybody, the Philistines and stuff. So this is what the Philistines did. So the Philistines came up and they burned her and her father with fire. You know, the sad thing is that was what she was trying to steer clear from. You know, she should have just been faithful with her husband at that point in time and just said, listen, this is what's going on. They got a gun to my head, they got a gun to head. Samson would have probably taken them out. He would have taken them out. You know what I mean? I mean, he would have, because we'll find later in the story, they think it's crazy he got 300 foxes. Wait till he takes out these people, right? With the power of God. I mean, he is literally, I believe, the strongest person that has ever existed on this planet. You know, there's nobody else in Scripture that gives any indication that they had this kind of strength. Now, one person I was thinking about, I was like, there's nobody that God did this thing to. But this man here, Samson, he had this great strength. Yet he kept on messing up. Almost done here. A couple more verses now. Let's see what happens when Samson finds out. I guess you would say his ex at this point, because she's married to another. But obviously he's like, what? So Samson said to them, since you would do a thing like this, I will surely take revenge on you. And after that I will cease. So he attacked them hip and thigh with a great slaughter. Then he went down and he dwelt in the cleft of the rock of Edom. And that's as far as we're going to read. And so at that point in time, it's just basically, he just whooped them. You know, I guess, I don't know the exact term, you know, attack them hip and thigh. I think the idea is just with vengeance and stuff, that he just took these guys down. Doesn't give us a number here. We're going to find out next week that he'll take out 1,000 people with the donkey jaws on. You know, that this man was unstoppable, that he was undefeatable, you know, in the power of God. But when he subsided from following God, and we started to follow all his passions, his lusts, he was consumed by everything, he just couldn't think about anything else, he lost it. And we'll see what happens at the end. But couple things here to go by. The domino effect. Think about this in your own life. Think about the danger of sin. Think about maybe there's an avenue in your life, there's a sin in your life that's affecting you. You know? It's setting on course, you know, a domino thing that's going to keep on affecting you. And you may think that it's small, but it's going to affect the rest of your life. It's not just going to end right there. That's just like Samson was blind, you know, to the fact that what he was doing was going to have severe consequences. Again, look at these one more time. When we don't see the value in God, is there someone in here, like, again, I'm going to ask you to really look at your own self and think about it. You know, do you see value in serving God? If you do, that means you're serving him right now. If you're not serving God, then you don't see a value in it. And don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to the world. If you're not serving God now, then you do not see a value in serving God. You're not much different than Samson. You know? Is it true? It's true. If you look at your life, where is the place of value in serving God? Is it priority in your life? Like, God, when I die, I want it to be said that I served you. Maybe not perfectly, you know, maybe not to full capacity, and I have my ups and downs, but I want to know that was one of the things I placed a high value on in my life, that I would serve you. You know, do you see a value in honoring your parents? Are you willing to lie and bicker? You know, maybe it's on your parents, or getting your friends defiled in some kind of horrible sin, you know? Like he was handing out the honey to his parents, not even telling them, you know? The Bible talks about in Romans that some people take pleasure in even other people's sins. They do their own sin, and they said not only do they do it themselves, but they go on and they take pleasure in seeing other people do it. Is that you? Yeah, oh yeah, go do this. And it could be something that maybe, you know, we can like hush it down, but maybe it's like listening to music that's just horrible. You know? I mean, I'll listen to, not everything I've ever listened to is about God. It might be about his creation and different things and like that. But you can listen to some music that is anti-God. You know? That would be a song about Samson's life and not looking at it, you know, in a negative light and trying to pull out some of the negatives so that we can learn from it. But these songs and this music and these words that are written, or these movies or these books, these things, they actually edify doing what is wrong. And you're like, hey bro, go check out this. Watch this movie, take this honey. It's basically what you're doing. And it's something horrible. It's something that is repulsive to God. So number 3, I just said, you don't see value in godly relationships. Man, I know God says that I should be, you know, together with people who are close with the Lord, that will be like iron sharpening iron, you know, and so a friend sharpens the countenance of his friend, and that a Christian would make their closest friends Christians. Doesn't mean you don't have any non-Christian association, but the closest people in your life. Or if you say, to the wind with it, I don't value what God says at all, it doesn't matter. Again, getting back to this point, do I see any value in God whatsoever? If all these are no, then you don't see value in God. The creator of everything, this ocean, this everything we see is God has created. So no value in serving him, no value in honoring, you know, your parents, no value in godly relationships, no value in telling the truth, no value in humility. You just be like, yo, I'm the guy, I got the best riddle in town. You know, I'm the wisest, I'm the smartest, I'm the craftiest, I got all this stuff going for me. Another one, just seeing the value in financial integrity. Man, I'll lay it all down, I don't care. I'll put 30 times, you know, that I'll gamble and bet and do whatever. I don't see value in animal life. Man, what was he doing with all these foxes? You know, what's going through his mind? The depravity that we will go to when we allow sin to overcome our lives and we don't place God in number 1. Man, what are we going to do with our animals? Man, I like dogs. I like cats. I'm sure I like foxes, but I don't see any around me. But I like mongoose. I'm not going to certainly go out and get all the mongoose and get 300 of them and tie them together with their tail and set a blaze between them. That's crazy, right? It's insane. And that's sin and its effects in our life. You don't see the value in forgiveness. You know, you don't see, and I could go on, and every one of these is a sermon, you don't see the value in anything else except for serving yourself. You know, 1 Corinthians 3:18 is the last slide, says, let no man deceive himself. That's a whole message right there. Let no man deceive himself. That's to you and that's to me. If you're here this morning and anybody who's watching online, don't deceive yourself. You know, look at yourself and say, man, there's avenues in my life I need to work on. Am I placing this value on things that are temporary, and not only temporary, but sinful and repulsive to God, offensive to God? And I'm taking those and I'm valuing those more than you, God. And my hope this morning is maybe you look at yourself and say, man, God, I don't want to be like that. And I need your help. I can't battle these desires within my own life. I need you, God, to help me. God's going to help you. He's going to be there for you. Let no man deceive himself. If any man among you seems to be wise in this world, let him become a fool that he may be wise. And if you're so wise, you're so crafty, you're so, you know, you can bust out the riddles. I'll tell you what the riddle is in just 1 second. Maybe you can, and all this stuff, you know, you just got one on everybody. Man, the Bible says, man, you should become a fool. If you're so smart in this world, you got it all figured out, and I'm just going to do what I want to do apart from where God has laid down the way that we should live. And you think you're so, he says, man, you shouldn't need to become a fool to this world so that you might become wise. You know, because the world and its the lust thereof, you know, it's going to perish and all this stuff. And then last verse, 2 Corinthians 4:4 says, in whom the God of this world has blinded the minds of them which believe not. You know, maybe you're here this morning, you say, man, I hear, you know, stuff about God, I hear all this stuff, and maybe until now you've been kind of blinded to the fact that, hey, how did we get here? Or no, I do believe that there's some truth to what I hear about Bible. Maybe Jesus is the Savior. Maybe God is lifting off the blinders in your life. And that's what our prayer is. Maybe this morning you're saying, hey, you know what? I feel like I've been blinded. The God of this world, who is Satan, has blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. Listen to me, if you're here this morning and you got questions and you don't know all the answers, I encourage you to talk to God. Even if you don't know him, you can still talk to him. first thing you need to say is that, God, I've been blinded, and by faith I believe, Jesus, you are the Son of God. You died for me on the cross. I don't understand it. I don't understand everything, but I do believe it, God, that you sent your Son to die for me. I know I'm messed up. I know I'm a sinful person. And God, I repent, and I ask you to save me. You talk to God. You have enough faith believing that he's the Savior of the world. Maybe you don't have everything figured out, how he did everything. You don't have to. All you have to know is that you're a sinful person and that Christ came to die for your sins, and you can be forgiven and redeemed. If you haven't done that this morning, we encourage you to do that. You can always contact me anytime. You can always message me or something. I'll get back to you. So I'm going to end there, but I'm going to give you the riddle and we'll get back to it. So what, anybody remember the riddle by heart? If you do, you're a genius. That's,
Will you get there?
Eat, I
Can you
live.
get there?
I breathe,
Okay.
I live, I drink, I die.
here we go. I eat, I live, I breathe, I live, I drink, I die. What am I?
Contaminated water?
Contaminated water?
Think of Australia.
No. Yeah, what happened in Australia? Fire. Fire. So I eat, fire eats, right? I live. I breathe, it gets the oxygen. I live. I drink. I'm toast. I die. So what am I? There you go. How hard would that be? If all that, so. All right, guys. Thank you guys for being here this morning. We miss everybody. Aloha, guys. I encourage you to do like the Martins are always doing, reading ahead and stuff like that. The stories that we're reading in the Bible, these are true events. They're exciting. The more you get into them and stuff, you're like, man, there's so much in it. So I encourage you to get into the study. Keep on reading the book of Judges. If you're looking for any kind of studies or anything like that, let me know. We got some even studies in our office. Ladies have their study on Thursday night, 7 o'clock on Zoom. So, and again, you don't have to wear your face mask. You're free to smile. Everyone can see you. And I think that's it, guys. We love you guys. We miss you guys. Aloha. That's it. All right, everybody. Do you guys want to, we'll just cut it out here. I'll just close out with the word of prayer. Jesus, thank you for your word. Thank you for looking at Samson and realizing, Lord, we can look in our past and we can be so messed up. But God, we know that you can still use us. But Lord, let it not be that we're content with you using us while we're just a mess in our sin. But Lord, give us the wisdom, give us the sight that we need, the vision that we need to place sin far away from us, Lord. Help us not to succumb to the temptations and the desires and every whim of passion that we have in this world as we see Samson just following into the 10th degree, God, and just going and making a mess of things, Lord. We pray that you help us to have the wisdom to see and to learn from the life of Samson. And God, we pray that you'll give us victory through the power of your Holy Spirit working in us over the sins that do so easily beset us, God. And we love you, Jesus. You are awesome. We pray for everybody, Lord. Let's all have a great rest of our Sunday. And Lord, help us all to get back together soon in person, Lord. We love you, Jesus. We pray this in your most precious name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Aloha, everybody.